Welcome to today's session of Golden Moments and Golden Memories. This is a part of a video series that's being sponsored by the University of North Georgia Alumni Association in conjunction with the North Georgia Choral Cadets Association, the Women of North Georgia, and the Young Alumni. It is designed to help all of us understand the legacy of the university, understand the history, and particularly history as it relates to former students and professors or other members of the staff. So it's been an interesting series, and today we're going to continue with that with a very special guest, somebody that I have known since back in the mid-90s, and she was an assistant professor of accounting in the Cottrell School of Business. So help me welcome Ms. Martha Merritt. Welcome today. Glad to have you.
Thank you, John. It is absolutely marvelous to be here. I am so excited to be a part of this series. UNG is an extremely special place and dear to my heart. And thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's great having you here. Why don't you just start off by sharing with folks a little bit about yourself personally, as far as where you're from, where you went to high school, any kind of advanced education that you received, and then we'll go from there.
Awesome. Actually, I'm a transplant to the North Georgia area. I was born and raised in the low country of South Carolina in a very small town, smaller than Dahlonega, called Brunson. I have an older brother and a younger sister, and we had a very happy childhood. But as it's been referred to since I grew up and joined the accounting profession and the profession of higher education, the question asked to me was, how in the world did I get here from growing up in the sticks? So I'm not sure that, I do know, I am sure that I didn't know I was growing up in the sticks. I had a wonderful childhood. I attended Wade Hampton High School in Hampton, South Carolina, and I guess for a little shout out, I graduated salutatorian of my class.
Not surprising.
And I made my way to the University of South Carolina in Columbia. I majored in business education. I wanted to be a teacher. And interestingly enough, I decided in the third grade that I wanted to be a teacher, and that stuck with me. While I was at school at Carolina, I actually enjoyed my classes in business, particularly my classes in accounting. So I took as much as I could in accounting. When I graduated with my degree in education, I went on for a master's in teaching, and then I actually went to work teaching. But in the back of my mind, I just knew that someday I was going to go back to school in accounting and finish my work in accounting. And I did exactly that. I achieved my Master of Accountancy. All of my degrees are from the University of South Carolina. Following my Master of Accountancy, I went to work for one of the then Big 8 firms, Arthur Andersen, and did a lot of traveling and a lot of auditing. And then actually I missed the classroom. So that sort of leads me into how did I manage to get to, at the time, North Georgia College. Is it okay if I talk about that? I was busy auditing, mostly all over the state of South Carolina with Arthur Andersen, and I actually enjoyed my work, but I really missed the classroom. So I started exploring an opportunity to get back to teaching, and I really wanted to teach at the collegiate level if possible. So my pursuits really didn't work out all that well initially, And then I had a friend who was in the Atlanta area and told me about a system that the University System of Georgia had where you could put your name in a bucket, so to speak, and if a position came open that you were qualified for, you would be notified. And I asked the question as an accountant would. I said, well, how much does it cost to be a part of that system? And the answer was nothing.
Yeah.
So I said, well, that sounds like the right price.
No
So
brainer.
put my name in, and I did. And within 2 weeks, I received a little postcard. Now, I know that sounds very old-fashioned, but remember, this was prior to widespread use of the internet and all of that. So I got this postcard that said there was a position open for an instructor of accounting at a place called North Georgia College in a town that I wasn't sure how to pronounce. Upon coming here, I quickly learned that it was Dahlonega, but I didn't know that then. So I actually got out my map to find where in the world is that. And then I got in touch with the contact person who was actually one of the people who has been interviewed in this series, Dr. Larry Dennis.
Sure.
So I contacted Dr. Dennis and said, here's who I am and here's what I've got. Should I really apply, or am I really not qualified? And he said, you should apply. I did, and my very first visit to Dahlonega was my job interview. And I had a wonderful day at North Georgia College that day.
Now, approximately when was that?
This was 1988.
88, okay.
1988. Thank you. That's a great question. And for some reason, they chose to offer me the position, and I accepted. And as the cliche goes, the rest is history, but I arrived here at North Georgia in 1988, and it has been just a wonderful experience ever since. I had never been to this part of Georgia, so everything was brand new, and wow, what a wonderful adventure.
That's great. That is super. And you mentioned the auditing. As I recall, most junior auditors, that was one of their first assignments was, accountants, particularly in the big 8 firms, you got put on the road going out doing audits everywhere. So that was good training, but was consistent with what they would do with young accountants at that point. That's super background. You said you transitioned and you got here about 1988, and at that point it was North Georgia College, and at that point probably it was just the Department of Accounting or something like that, right? There was no designation for school or...
Well, actually, it was a Department of Business Administration.
Right.
So we didn't even have, we had our majors within the department, but we were just a department at
Correct.
that time.
Correct. Now the accounting classes that over it's been 30 years or so that you actually were in the classroom. Which, by the way, if you've been my instructor, I might not have done so poorly in accounting when I was here. But anyway, the levels that you were teaching over the 30 years, was it basic 201, 202 type of accounting, or did you get into tax stuff and things like that? What was your niche, so to speak?
Well, what a wonderful question, and I get to talk about my courses, which I love to do. When I arrived here, I was a licensed CPA, and I had auditing experience. So Dr. Dennis immediately put me into teaching the auditing course within the accounting major, since I had auditing experience, and that was wonderful. That was a lot of fun, and I was able to bring real world experience into a course that is sometimes just very conceptual and doesn't have a lot of meat for students. It feels more like memorizing things. But the fact is, I have had the wonderful opportunity to teach at so many levels across the BBA coursework. I've taught Principles of Accounting 1 and 2, which is financial accounting and managerial accounting, which is taken by students usually at the sophomore level. And I did mostly accounting principles along with auditing for the first several years at North Georgia. I also, interestingly enough, taught business communications. Since I had a degree in business education, the communications part of that was something that I was also able to teach, and so I taught business communications. After several years, Dr. Dennis gave me the opportunity to move into teaching courses within the accounting major. And I had the opportunity to teach Intermediate Accounting 1, and then I moved on to Intermediate Accounting 2, Intermediate Accounting 3, Advanced Financial Accounting, and as I had said earlier, auditing. Also, along the way, over my 32 years of full-time teaching, I also taught an accounting boot camp course within our MBA program to help students that did not have any accounting background be ready for the MBA program. I taught that accounting boot camp. I also taught a special accounting elective course within the MBA program. So I've really taught a wide variety of courses while I've been here. I guess the ones that I've taught the most, where I focused most of my time, was in the Intermediate Financial Accounting series. And this is sometimes called the heart of the accounting major. And fascinating for me and wonderful for me. And I'm sure some graduates would say wonderful for them and some frankly would not. But on the Dahlonega campus, I was able to teach Intermediate 1, Intermediate 2, and Intermediate 3. So many accounting majors would actually have me for all three of those classes, which was either torture or good for them or something in between. But what it allowed was so neat, because by the third intermediate accounting course, we were like a family. The students came in, they all knew each other because nobody took intermediate accounting as an elective. Nobody did that. So the students were all in class together, and they came into the class. They knew me. They knew my style of teaching. They knew what my tests were like. So there was familiarity. So sometimes the first day of class was more like a family reunion than the traditional first day of class. And it allowed me to get to know them. And it gave them comfort in the classroom to ask questions pretty freely. It was just a super experience. Academically, it's arguable whether that was better for the students, or would it have been better for them to have different perspectives in those three classes. And academics can argue that point, as they can with most points. But it had so many wonderful blessings for me, and I hope for many of those folks who endured that.
Well, I know from personal experience, having talked with students over the years, you are one of the most loved professors ever on this campus, and particularly within the School of Business. And you have that reputation that amongst the student body, beyond actually, the word gets around about good professors, and having had the opportunity to chat. I was in the business school for about 4 years with the MBA program.
Yes, you were.
And that's how I first got to meet Martha. But I think you have something there in your lap that maybe you want to share with us. This is a picture that she shared with me before we started our session here. Why don't you explain what that is about these 5 students?
Okay, this is a picture that was actually given to me by this group of students, and I'm not going to call all of their names, but these students graduated. Obviously, they're in their wonderful academic regalia. They graduated, I believe the year was around 2012. This group of students is among those who went through what I explained a few moments ago. These students had intermediate accounting 1, 2, and 3 with me, and some of them also had advanced financial accounting with me. So they endured my classes quite a bit. During the time with this group of students, I refer to myself quite often in class as mean old Merritt, because I was not known as one of the easiest professors, and frankly I expected a lot from my students. I will say that I did, and the subject matter was not easy. So I just jokingly and hopefully warmly referred to myself as mean old Merritt. Well, this particular group of students captured that and liked it, and even referred to me quite often in class as Mom for mean old Merritt. They surprised me at graduation. They made posters, and these posters say, "We survived mean old Merritt and love her a lot." They made these posters, called me outside. They took a picture of it. I got to give them great hugs, and then they framed this picture and gave it to me. And I cherish this, and I think it just says so much about the wonderful students that have come through the University of North Georgia. They have captured the essence of the place. They respect the fact that they're getting a good education. They appreciate it. And instead of being upset with me for for expecting a lot from them, instead they celebrated that. And then that last poster that says, "Love her a lot," that's above and beyond.
Sure. Well, I think that also highlights something that is often discussed as far as the university itself. The size of the university and the culture allows professors to get to know the students, and vice versa, by comparison to being a number somewhere at one of the larger institutions. And I think that is something that whenever I get together with alum, that often comes up. It was how great that they knew me and understood, my personality type and how I best could learn, etc. So that just further highlights and reinforces that. Well, let me change topics on you a little bit. Let's continue on with that. As I recall, that because of your experience and because of your contacts, you have helped a lot of students along the way once they graduate to be able to find jobs. And this is, of course, we have a department that helps students, but this was, as I recall, kind of an over and beyond things that you did because you had so many contacts. How about sharing a little bit about how you help folks with that?
Well, actually, I'm happy to share about that. One of the things that I got the opportunity to do as a full-time faculty member, along with certainly my teaching responsibilities in the classroom, was advising responsibilities. And I really do look at that as something I really got to do. That was an opportunity because in advising, this is when you get to sit and have a conversation with students one-on-one, and you hear from them about what their goals and objectives are, what they want to accomplish, and you get to answer their questions. So it was in these times that I really got to know the students, and I was able to help people find their path. And that was awesome. In also another of my opportunities as a full-time faculty member was to work with students in professional organizations. Prior to our College of Business Association through the AACSB, we had an organization called the Student Accounting Society. And through this organization, we brought practitioners to campus to speak to students, and we began to develop that relationship between accounting education and the accounting profession. At the point where the College of Business became accredited by the AACSB, we then had the opportunity to establish an honorary professional organization known as Beta Alpha Psi, which is really a national organization, actually an international organization that has membership of professionals and students who academically achieve. And this organization does many things to bring the profession and the students together. With the terrific assistance of a then colleague, Dr. Brad Schaefer, who, by the way, is also an alum. I had the distinct honor of teaching Brad here at the university, and then working alongside him as a colleague here at the university. Brad and I started the new Gamma chapter of Beta Alpha Psi here at the University of North Georgia. And this opportunity to be a part of Beta Alpha Psi really opened the doors to so many connections within the accounting profession. Students were invited to firms for tours. Students had internship opportunities. Members, practitioners were very open to coming here to the university and speaking at professional meetings. They were so open to do that on the Dahlonega campus and the Gainesville campus. They would come and bring the students treats, bring them pizza, cookies, meet with them, talk to them, give the students wonderful information on how to correctly do their resumes, what are the do's and don'ts in an interview situation, how to navigate successfully a career fair. So much good information. I just really had the opportunity to be blessed to be a part of the work of Beta Alpha Psi, and then to be a part of the work of the accounting profession. I would be remiss to miss the opportunity to say how wonderful it was to teach in the accounting area, because I was able to have the support of the accounting profession. And the accounting profession wants to support higher education.
Sure.
They want to help the students, both financially and in terms of sharing their knowledge, their time, mentoring students, providing internships for students, providing jobs for students. How wonderful it was to be supported by the accounting profession. Firms individually, but also organizations like the Georgia Society of CPAs, who has programs providing scholarships, has programs providing just about anything that students need. Dr. Dennis, when I first arrived here in the late 1980s, encouraged me to get involved with the Georgia Society of CPAs, the Georgia Association of Accounting Educators, to get involved professionally, and I did. And I continued that involvement. And when Max Burns was dean of the School of Business, he also encouraged me and really made it part of my responsibilities to continue my involvement. Through these opportunities, I got to know so many people across the state in accounting firms, and that, I believe, helped open doors
Sure.
for the students. And I have to share this with you, John. It was just so interesting to me at one point, and this is probably in the early 2000s, I actually had a phone call from an accounting firm in the North Georgia region. And this is a firm that I really didn't know anyone personally.
Right.
And the person calling me was asking me about, did I have students that I might could recommend for internships or whatever. And we went through the conversation, delightful conversation. And the young lady on the other end said, I just have to share this with you before we hang up. She said, I don't know if you know this or not, but out there in the world of accounting firms, when we start talking about needing staff and where can we go to find good people, the word on the street is call Martha Merritt at the University of North Georgia. And she said, I realize that you're actually a faculty member, so I'm not real sure that that's what you want, but I wanted you to know that the word on the street is call you.
That's great.
And that, she made my day, because what a wonderful position I was in to connect great students to a great profession.
Sure. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. One of the other things I was always proud of hearing about that the school, in particular the accounting department, was involved with, which you may or may not have been involved with, but I know that the department itself, people need to be aware, also had provided service for free assistance with income tax preparation, as I recall. I don't know whether that's still going on or not, but when I was here it was, and I just thought it was a wonderful outreach from a service perspective and people to get some personal experience as a student to filling out stuff like that.
And that is still going on through a program sponsored by the IRS called the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. We actually started being a part of that way back when we were North Georgia College. Back in the early 90s, we started providing that service. The program has grown, it has changed, but it in fact is still going on. I am not a tax accountant, so I wouldn't say that I've been a star of that show, but I have been involved with it, and it is still a part of the service that is offered by now the Department of Accounting and Law to the community.
That's wonderful. You've already mentioned a couple of deans. We don't need to name them all, but how many deans have you worked for, or department heads at the university?
Well, I have to tell you that I always tell people I've worked for at least 3 different college/universities, and I've worked for 2 or 3 different schools or departments, and I've never left the position that I had. So let me explain that. I've worked for North Georgia College, and they then became North Georgia College and State University, and then finally the University of North Georgia. So that's awesome.
Great.
I've also worked for the Department of Business Administration, the School of Business and Government, the Mike Cottrell School of Business, and the Mike Cottrell College of Business. So I've seen a lot of changes here, and that's been wonderful. I've actually worked under the leadership of 6 different individuals. Dr. Larry Dennis, who was department head when I arrived, became the first dean of the School of Business and Government. And then we've moved through the years, and I've even worked under the current dean of the Mike Cottrell College of Business, Dr. Mary Gowan. I've also worked for 6 different college presidents, starting with Dr. Owen, who was the president of North Georgia College when I arrived.
Right.
And we traveled through the years all the way up to our current president, Dr. Jacobs.
Who is also a great supporter of the school. The Mike Cottrell School recently moved into some new digs, some new building. How about first sharing with us just a little bit about that, and then I want to ask you something specific about that building.
Okay. When I started here at the university, we were not in that building. In fact, we weren't even in the Newton Oaks Center. We were in the basement of Dunlap Hall. And that was the Department of Business Administration. During the mid-90s, we actually moved into the then new Newton Oaks Center, and that was very, very exciting. And then just this fall, the Cottrell Center for Business, Innovation, and Technology became a part of the Dahlonega campus of the university, and the College of Business has found its brand new home. I do not have an office in that building, but as part-time faculty, and I am so blessed to still be part-time faculty for the college. I am teaching 2 sections of Accounting Principles 1 online. So I'm still a part of the
Good.
team, and I'm very excited about that. And there is hoteling space for part-time faculty in the Cottrell Center, which means that we can go in anytime, and there's office space for us.
Right.
And so we still have a home. That Cottrell Center is beautiful.
Well, Mike Cottrell and his wife Lynn have both been great benefactors to the university, and specifically to the School of Business and the College of Business, and
They certainly have.
and have. But something real special happened on the weekend that opened, and there was I have seen the pictures. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend, but I understand that a classroom has been named for Martha Merritt.
Oh my goodness. John, this is, I'm almost speechless, and the students that have been with Miss Merritt in class would say that never happens. But yes, in the Cottrell Center, classroom 276 is the Martha Merritt classroom. And I still get very emotional about that. That is the result of an initiative that I believe was spearheaded by my good friend and current supervisor, Dr. Ellen Best, who is the department head for accounting and law currently in the College of Business. I think that she initiated the campaign to raise money to name a classroom for me.
Right.
And
Quite
the
an honor.
campaign happened, and it was successful. And I have to say a huge thank you to all of those who supported that campaign, and that includes my family, friends, and my dear and precious accounting alumni. Many of them supported that campaign, and also my colleagues. I had colleagues, people I had worked with in the College of Business for so many years, who supported that campaign.
Sure.
And I must let you know that donors to that campaign their names are on a huge, wonderful, beautiful plaque that is in that classroom.
Wow.
And that is so amazing
Sure.
to me. And I've had the joy of going inside the classroom, and actually we had an accounting night over at the Cottrell Center, and there were so many of my alumni. Brad Schaefer, that I mentioned, that I had taught. I had worked alongside him here at the university, and I work alongside him in professional organizations. He came back and said a few words about the Martha Merritt classroom, and he even found some nice words.
Some good words.
He did. And there were so many folks there. It was a night that was just unbelievable. Accounting firms also helped to make the Martha Merritt classroom possible. There are firms in the region that have been long-time supporters, not just financially, but in so many ways, supporters of the accounting program, have helped me so much, have hired our students and continue to do so. I'm going to not name firms because of the risk that I would leave somebody out, but I am just overcome with gratitude about the Martha Merritt classroom.
Well, you mentioned the support, and one of the things that I recall, you're not only known, throughout the region from that perspective and throughout the college business, but you're known throughout the university here on the Dahlonega campus for your involvement in other activities outside of your regular faculty. And I know that in particular, at least when I was here, you used to assist with graduations, but I probably don't know the whole story. So why don't you share a little bit about that?
That's wonderful. One of the things that was true about North Georgia College when I arrived is that part of being a new person on campus is you, again, got the opportunity to participate in many different things on campus. So I had a lot of committee work, and not just in the College of Business, but across campus. I even served on what's called the traffic committee, where we decided about parking tickets and stuff. I mean, it was really funny. And I got to work on lots of different things that the university does, like Parent Alumni Weekend. I actually got to serve as even as a bartender at Parent Alumni Weekend. But doing things like that was a huge opportunity to get to know people across campus, and I did, and that was wonderful. Interestingly enough, you mentioned commencement. That's kind of a funny story, and it's kind of one of those things of you never know where opportunities are going to come. Actually, when I was expecting my third child, he was due in February, so the university chose that I didn't start teaching in January and then have to walk away from that class in February, that just didn't seem like the right thing to do for students, and I agree with that. So the university came up with special jobs for me for January and until my son was born in February. And one of those special jobs was planning and managing commencement ceremonies. Again, you never know how timing is going to work out, but the person who had done that for years was retiring. So they needed someone to take that over. And that someone turned out to be me. And that was in year 2000. So at the time, we were doing commencement ceremonies in the gym.
Right, Memorial Hall.
Yes, in Memorial Hall. And we were having multiple ceremonies just to have space for everybody. So I grabbed that and I planned commencement, and then on the Saturdays and Sundays when commencement happened, I ran commencement during those days. So that was in year 2000 as a special project.
Right.
That special project continued until year 2013. Actually, I was the commencement coordinator for 13 years.
Wow.
Here at the university. And people hear that and say, what?
Yeah.
Why was an assistant professor of accounting running commencement? Well, I would say that that's at least 3 reasons. One is because of the special project the university so graciously gave me the opportunity to do at a time that I needed that. And secondly, because apparently I did a good enough job that it just seemed to work for the university. And thirdly, because I loved it.
Yeah.
It was fun. What a glorious opportunity to be a part of a day that people are so excited
I will remember for years.
about.
Well, let me ask you, there's a couple other things before we wrap up here. You just got through mentioning your third child. Why don't you briefly give us an overview? Because obviously when you came here, there was no Mr. in your life at that point, it sounded like. So why don't you tell us how you met Tim and et cetera?
Oh, wonderful. I love the opportunity to talk about that. That is true. When I arrived at North Georgia College, I was actually Miss Harder. That was my maiden name. And I did not have a significant other in my life. I was wonderfully single, as
Right.
they say. So, fortunately, the Department of Business family took me in, and they really made me feel at home. But I was living in Gainesville, and I actually visited First Baptist Church in Gainesville, and they had at the time a wonderful adult singles program. And I eventually worked up the courage to visit in that program. And it was a wonderful program where we did so many awesome things. One of the awesome things for me was I met my husband Tim through the singles program at First Baptist. We got to know each other, spending a lot of time at church and doing things through that program. Tim and I got married in 1990, and we have been blessed to have careers in this area. And Tim is a graduate of North Georgia College. And we built our home in Hall County and have enjoyed life here. We've been blessed with 3 wonderful children, Will, Amanda, and Matt. All 3 of them still live in the area. Will is a CPA and works for a firm in Gainesville. My daughter Amanda is a nurse. And my son Matt runs his own grading business and is a firefighter, an EMT.
Great, great. Well, it's just been a joy having you here and catching up with you after these many years. But before we wrap up, before we close out, I just want to give you an opportunity to say anything you want to say, things I haven't asked, things we've overlooked. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the alums, the folks that might be watching this?
Of course.
Oh,
I
well, Professor wouldn't want to speak again, right?
Of course. And folks that know me say, don't give her the floor. That's a mistake. But I want to share two things. One is it happens to be near Christmas time when we're doing this interview, and that's an amazing time of the year because it's the birth of our Savior, but also because we celebrate wonderful, fun things like Santa Claus. And I'm mentioning that because one of the amazing things that I got the chance to do during my years in the College of Business is I got to play Santa Claus. My mother is a wonderful seamstress, and she made me a Santa Claus suit. And I actually played Santa Claus at many Christmas parties that the Department of Business, the School of Business, the College of Business.
You're a very slim lady. You must have had 2 or 3 pillows.
Well, thank you for that. Wow, that's awesome. But playing Santa Claus was absolute joy, absolute fun, and I think gave many, many laughs to my colleagues. So and actually there's a picture, and I'm not going to show this picture, but I have to tell you there are a number of pictures of me in my Santa Claus suit, and one of them is extremely dear to me. It's a picture with Larry Dennis.
Okay.
And he's got a big old smile on his face standing right by Santa Claus. So I'm so grateful for the opportunity to work with people like that. People that we could work hard together, but we could also play hard together and enjoy times like Christmas time.
Sure.
And then he told me I could talk, so I'm also going to say, I just feel so blessed. My career here at the University of North Georgia has been an absolute blessing to me. I've heard that many people say that the students of North Georgia are special, and they are. I had the joy of working a lot with accounting majors, and the Lord just took care of me because they have to be some of the most wonderful, extraordinary, kind, and dedicated people that are on planet Earth. And then those people go and become part of the accounting profession. The accounting profession is filled with loving people who care, who want to do what's right, and who embrace the call of higher education and want students to succeed, faculty to succeed, and universities to succeed. I am just overcome with gratitude at the opportunities that I've been given to be a part of the University of North Georgia family.
Well, we appreciate so much you coming and being with us today. And while you seem blessed, I know that our audience will be blessed, and I know that there are a ton of students who have been blessed to have been in your classroom. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Merritt. And we look forward maybe to continuing this some part in the future when you can give us the next session.
Thank you, John.
Thank
Just let me know.